So after I posted my video called How to Interview Like a Star, I was requested by a few people to make a video on CV writing. Now, CV writing is both a science and an art. And having worked and interviewed people across South Asia, Middle East, and North America over the years, I have realized that people make some common mistakes while writing their CVs. So in this video, I will share with you 4 don'ts and 4 do's of CV writing. My name is Jamil Hai, and I've been working in the corporate sector for the last 17 years, and my passion is to help you build real life skills for your job and career that they don't teach you in college. So let's learn how to write a CV. So if you've ever seen do's and don'ts videos in the past, people normally start with do's and then go to don'ts. In this video, I will reverse the order because in case of CV writing, if you understand the don'ts, the do's will become naturally clear. So the first don't is don't make your CV more than 2 pages long. You know, whenever I am recruiting, on an average, I get between 10 to 20 CVs that I have to go through for the screening process. And this is also kind of the industry average. So typically, recruiters don't have time to go through 3, 4, 5 page long novels. They're looking for short, crisp, precise information, which can be easily condensed between 1 and 2 pages. Let me give you a rule of thumb. If your experience is between 0 and 5 years, which means that you are either a fresh graduate or you are an early career professional with less than 5 years of experience, then your CV should not be longer than 1 page. If you have more than 5 years of experience, then yes, your CV can be 2 pages long because then it becomes really hard to fit all the relevant details, and then your experience is becoming solid enough that you have to talk about some critical things which you cannot simply afford to miss out on the CV. But anything longer than that, no matter even if you have 25 years of experience, is not acceptable. So the second don't is don't mention buzzwords or clichés or obvious skills. What do I mean by that? You know, recruiters are sick and tired of reading terms like team player, hard worker, working under pressure, able to work under pressure, and the list goes on and on and on. And you can see a longer list of these terms which are typically used in CVs all the time. But honestly, these are the worst terms. Now you might be wondering, if these are not the terms to use, what should I use? Well, watch this video till the end, because when we move to the do's section, I will share with you some terms that you need to use, which can be much better replacements of this and which actually show some action. Because the problem with these words is that these are just adjectives which anybody can use, but they are not showing anything concrete that you have achieved. As an example, I can say that I am a hard worker, but everybody can claim that, right? So my CV should be talking more about how I have demonstrated that. Now, a connected point in this don't is don't use obvious skills which everybody knows today. For instance, I get a lot of CVs where people still mention things like Microsoft Word or Office or Google. You know, I mean, these are skills which everybody knows today. You don't have to mention that you know Microsoft Word, because yes, of course, if you don't know Microsoft Word, that's a huge problem, right? Then you have a different problem to solve than writing a CV. So no need to mention these obvious skills because they don't add any value and they just consume unnecessary space in a very valuable real estate on your CV, because we just talked about in the previous don't that the CV should not be longer than 2 pages. So every single inch of that space on that page is critical. Don't waste that in mentioning that, oh, you know Microsoft Office, because of course everybody knows it. Now, of course, if you know something very specialized within Office, so for instance, you know Excel macros or pivot tables or VBA or Microsoft Access, then definitely yes, go for it, do mention it. But don't mention that you know Microsoft Word, because you know what, everybody knows it. So the next don't is don't mention details which don't matter. Once again, the space on your CV is absolutely critical. Don't waste it. So no need to mention things like your date of birth, your religion, your high school and elementary school details. Unless you just graduated from high school and you want to talk about your experiences there, that's different. But if you have done your graduation or post-graduation, you have a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, don't waste space by mentioning that you went to this elementary school or that high school, because of course you must have gone to some kind of high school if you ended up getting graduated. Same thing with marital status, except for some countries. I know, like when I used to work in the Middle East, some companies required you to put the marital status because there are some job visa related concerns there. Generally in North America or even in South Asia, it's not really a requirement, so don't need to mention that. And then the final and the most critical don't is don't lie or copy paste or steal content from other CVs. For an experienced recruiter or interviewer, it will take them a couple of minutes at max to find out that you are either lying or the content which was on your CV is not matching with what you are as a person. So no need to fool yourself, because the only person you are fooling by doing this is yourself. And you know what? This is a very critical mistake, because not only that lying is a bad thing, we all know that, but you are giving a very wrong signal to the recruiter, because as soon as somebody even has a doubt in their mind that you have either stolen content from other CVs or you are lying about your experience, the biggest question mark in the recruiter's mind will be about your ethics and about your integrity. And ethics and integrity are two things which no recruiter would want to hire a person who has compromised these two things. And then, this is showing that you have a tendency to do wrongdoing, or you can be involved in a fraud or those kind of things in the future. So nobody would like to hire a potential candidate who has demonstrated that his ethics or integrity is compromised. So now that we have covered the don'ts, the do's will start making a lot of sense. And the first do is do give real examples with numbers. This is kind of the opposite of what I was mentioning in the don'ts about don't use things like hard worker or teamwork or those kind of things which are pretty generic. Here, you need to talk about specifics. So as an example, implemented a new data consolidation tool to reduce manual transactions by 20%. So instead of saying that, I'm a hard worker or I'm a team player, here you are saying that you have actually implemented a proper tool, and you are also showing some numbers to show the business benefit out of that. Another example is delivered project X, which reduced logistics cost by $200,000 and improved profit margins by 5%. So you are demonstrating that you have the ability to deliver a project. And of course, you can give more details during the interview process, but you are showing what was the absolute reduction in cost and then what was the corresponding impact on the company's profits. Another example could be improved employee satisfaction score by 15% using the Gallup Q12 model. Now, this is an example of a soft skill, because this is not like a hard skill on logistics or any other finance and those kind of things. This is an example where you are quantifying a soft skill, because team engagement or employee satisfaction is an example of leadership. It's an example of your ability to line manage or lead people, right? So in this case, you're actually demonstrating with numbers how you were able to prove yourself as a good leader or a good line manager by improving something tangible. Now, the second do is do use action words. Now, here are the words that you should use. Things like achieved, improved, trained, managed, created, resolved. And in the previous do, I shared with you some specific examples on how you can use these action words connected with numbers, connected with real business results to really demonstrate the impact you had on a business or on some people, because that is really gonna show that you have delivered something which is grounded in fact and reality, and then this is something which you can build on further as you go through the interview process. Now, this third do is something which a lot of people ignore, and this is customize your CV for the job you're applying for. A lot of people, what they do is just keep a generic CV, and as soon as they see a job, they will just shoot it off, which is a strategy that could work, but in most cases, every job is different. There are certain skills which are needed more in some jobs than others. So what you need to do is keep a generic version of your CV and make sure that keep it updated to your latest experience. And as soon as you find a job that you want to apply for, look at the job description and try to find out what are the critical responsibilities of this job, or what are the critical skills required on this job, and then compare it with your CV, and then try to highlight the points which are common, because in that way you are really connecting your CV to the job and making sure that your chances of success in getting that job are higher, because now you are having a laser guided approach on your CV where you are highlighting those experiences which are relevant for this role. And finally, the last do is make sure you proofread your CV. I receive a lot of CVs where I would see spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes, and that doesn't give a very good impression about the candidate, because it gives recruiter an impression that this person has not done their due diligence. So make sure that you have done the spell check, punctuations, formatting, accuracy, and also make sure that the grammar makes sense. Now there's a tool called Grammarly which is now available and you can use it, but if you don't even want to use that and pay money for it, just ask for help. You can reach out to a friend or somebody that you trust in your family or friends that here is my CV, check it out. And finally, on the same note, if you need some advice on your CV, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Gmail, and you can see my contact details for all these platforms on the screen. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you will find it useful to improve your current CV. Keep watching, subscribe, learn, and apply these skills to your job and career. Good luck.